This is the Rolling with Tay podcast. I'm your host, Tasia, aka Tay, and this is episode 16. And my guest is Wendy. She was actually on season 1, episode 15, Treadmill to Triathlon. Definitely check that episode out. But Wendy, thank you for coming back on.
Thank you for having me.
uh, I wanted to have you on to talk about yoga. You recently became a yoga instructor and began teaching yoga classes. I've mentioned before, I have been to a few and I've enjoyed it, but I'm still kind of confused about like mindfulness and still the practice of yoga. And I'm sure a lot of people are as well. They probably don't know exactly what it entails and what it actually is. But before we get into all that, Happy New Year, because you're my second guest of 2024. So, again,
Happy New Year.
thank you. Happy New Year. It's still early enough to say Happy New Year.
Let's say the whole month we can say Happy New Year. You haven't seen the person.
Right. That's right. That's right. So if I haven't seen you, guess what I'm saying to you? Happy New Year. But again, thank you again for being a guest once again on the podcast. So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. A little tired, but I'm good.
Okay, okay, that's good. Um, so let's go to the beginning. When did you start practicing yoga, and like, why did you start practicing yoga?
So I started practicing yoga in 2012. Um I had moved to New Mexico. I was living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And as you know, I'm in healthcare. Well, I was in healthcare then. I'm in public health, really. And the clinic I worked for would reimburse us for taking any type of fitness, wellness, classes. So my coworker at the time had done yoga previously, so she suggested we do yoga. And ever since then, yoga has been my self-care practice. So I used to do, like I said, healthcare, like direct care, social services, which there's a high turnover rate, there's a high burnout. It could be very stressful helping people. So, yoga was the way for me to, um, like de-stress and just have some me time. Um, so yeah, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 2012 was when I started practicing.
So mindfulness. What is your definition of mindfulness?
So my definition of mindfulness is, um, being present, being here in the now. So we can practice mindfulness with any type of activity. So even when we're, cycling, running, eating, listening to music, anything could be a mindfulness practice as long as you're staying present. You're like, I'm here right now. Um, whether it's like, when we're biking, sometimes we're counting our cadence, right? Like we're focusing on our body. How does it feel on the saddle? When we're running, maybe we're trying to figure out our posture. Um, so yeah, I believe it's just being present. We can do mindfulness eating, which is like really looking at our food, looking at the colors, and then when we start, right, putting it in our mouth, like chewing it slowly, really paying attention to the different flavors and the textures. So, I think when we do anything slower and really intentional, that is mindfulness. So you probably practice mindfulness all the time and didn't even know that's what it was, right?
Hey, I'm
Yeah.
just yes, and I try to be more present. Like, it's always on the go, always looking at our phone, doing other things, right?
Mhm.
Instead of like actually paying attention as we're crossing the street. We're looking at our phones, or
Right.
when we're hanging out with people, everyone has their phone in their hand. It's
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
sometimes I catch myself and I look around and I'm like, damn, everybody's looking at their phone. Let me put my phone away and let me try to be in the moment. And I actually was practicing mindfulness. Just the other day, I was with my niece, and I was really present. You know, sometimes I'm gonna be honest. Some people be talking to me. My friends have this joke when I'll say that's crazy, or that I'll say something where they know like you're not even listening. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. So I'm sorry. But oh, okay, that's good to know.
But you know, I think
Mindfulness.
our um the way we grow up in our society, especially living in New York City, it's more of like how we the goal is always to multitask. It's not to
Right.
be doing one thing. It's like we always have so many things, and a lot of us are wearing so many different hats. We have so many different responsibilities and long to-do lists that most of us are doing multiple things at one time. Or even when we're trying to be present, we're thinking about what am I about, what do I need to do after this? Or we're stressing out about what we already did, or the mistakes that we already made, or how we could have done something differently. I think it is normal to always be thinking about something aside from the now. So it is a practice. Some people call it also medicine. Um, to just be here right now. It takes time, it takes work. But we can do it.
So with that, can you can you practice so you can practice mindfulness without having to do yoga?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's sound baths where there's people playing different instruments and you're laying down. That's a mindfulness practice. Um, and like I mentioned, there's moving meditation, moving mindfulness, um, where we're like really paying attention to what we're feeling, how does our body feel. So it doesn't have to be yoga. Anything could be mindfulness if you're doing it with the intention of like, I'm gonna pay attention to this only right now. And have the full experience, right? Not with my phone, not with a book.
Not with a book. Okay.
Because like I don't know if you've heard, like a lot of people recommend going out on your own, like going on solo dates, which could be very difficult for some people.
Yep.
Which is fine if you're on your phone or you're listening to music, you're reading a book or magazine, right? That's perfectly fine. But if you want to do it with the intention of it being mindful, you wouldn't be with that other thing, right? You'll be present, looking around the restaurant, paying attention to the colors. What do you hear? What do you smell? And of course, that experience can go deeper when you get your meal and your drink. So,
You know what? I think that would be kind of difficult. For me, like if I have my phone or I have my book, it's like, okay, one, I don't look or I don't feel as awkward.
hmm
Just because you're by yourself doesn't mean you're awkward, but I'm talking about me. I'm like, oh, I don't feel like I'm. So if I have my phone or I'm reading a book and then I get my
right.
meal, it's fine. But if I don't have anything, it's just like, I'm just
Mhm.
looking around.
Yeah, we try to distract ourselves, right, from the awkwardness, the uncomfortable feelings. Um, and I think that's one thing that we can learn from mindfulness practices is like really being in tune with our body and with our feelings. Like, how does this make me feel? And maybe it can be a little bit uncomfortable, right? And that's okay. We're figuring out why, and also sometimes just be like, no judgment. This is the way I feel, and that's okay. And they say that our mindfulness practices is the way for us to practice for the real world, especially when you're doing yoga. Like sometimes a pose could be difficult, and it's like, how can we translate that to in the real world when something is hard, right? We can take our time. We can breathe through it. We don't always have to react to somebody that's rude to us or get upset when we're in traffic or somebody cut us off. We could breathe. I'll be like, I'm okay. If I'm thinking about the right now, it's not that serious.
You're right about that. So on your Instagram, in your bio, it says accessibility, mindfulness for the Bronx.
Mhm.
What does that look like for you? What does that look like to you?
Yeah. So, I had the privilege of starting yoga. Somebody was paying it for me, right? And then I came home like a year later and I was like, oh, yoga's really expensive. So I was doing Groupon. Um, a lot of yoga studios have community classes. You could just try them out. So accessibility for me is that everybody should have access to it. Like it shouldn't matter that you don't have money. You should be able to be introduced to a yoga practice. Um, so yeah, like it doesn't no discrimination, right? Like a lot of things that are healthy are not something that our community can access. Um, and I'm sure you know of the hashtag not 62, right? The Bronx is the unhealthiest county in New York State. So making yoga more accessible is also a way to make us healthier, and hopefully in the future we won't be the last and unhealthiest county in New York State.
It's just so, it is so bad.
Yeah,
Like sometimes when I go into the bodega, it's just like all the unhealthy stuff is right in your face,
yeah,
and all the healthy stuff is all the way in
yeah. And it's like if we
someplace
even
else.
have healthy stuff that we want to buy,
Right.
right? Because the bananas sometimes you're looking a little like, I'm gonna buy this for a smoothie, I guess, because I don't want to eat a banana looking like that. Um, and our like shopping areas, right? They're changing, and I was hoping that they would change for the better, especially like Fordham Road. And I just saw a post that we're getting, I don't know if it's open already, an insomnia cookie. Yeah, which I'm like, oh, that's great. I used to love the insomnia cookies before I was vegan. But can I just get a spot where I could just go grab a salad? Like, can we get one healthy option aside from Chipotle, which it's okay, I guess.
I
So
don't know if you heard they're putting Chick-fil-A on Fordham.
on Fordham,
Yeah.
okay.
Right next to Target.
Oh,
But
okay, okay. I know where that is.
yeah.
All right. So yeah, we that's what the Bronx needs, right? We need another fast food restaurant. Right. So that's why yoga needs to be more accessible. Like maybe people are eating fast food, but maybe they
Mhm.
could also go practice some yoga. Maybe they can move a little bit, and maybe there'll be a balance.
Yeah, that would be, yeah. Because it seems like until you, right? I know there's probably other people who do it in the Bronx, but I wasn't aware of. I know you. So, but even if even if they do practice yoga, it doesn't seem like it's widely publicized. Like it's not like you gotta. It seems like you have to like scour for it, the
Hmm.
information. Like, oh, yoga.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
if I type in yoga, most of the time it's gonna tell me someplace in Manhattan
Right.
or Brooklyn. Not in the Bronx.
Hmm.
And then when I do see something, I'm like, oh, it passed already.
Yeah.
you know. Um.
But
So I think that.
crazy enough, we have. My friend recently told me about a studio that opened. So I know of three in the Riverdale area, and I know of one in the like Yankee Stadium area, which I'm not really sure
Okay.
if there's still a studio because they used to be like it was a combination of yoga and dance. So I'm not sure if they still do yoga. Um, but and like I said, one of those recently opened. So compared to Manhattan, there's so many of them. Um, so it's sad. And then when it gets warmer, like spring and summer, you can find free yoga in most other boroughs aside from the Bronx, in parks, in gardens. So that has been my goal. Like, how can we get that into the Bronx? So I've been collaborating with organizations that can offer and collaborate with me to offer free yoga to our community.
Yeah. And we did yoga in the park,
Hmm.
and it was cool because you see the little kids right passing by. Some people were asking you questions. It was cool because they probably haven't seen this,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we have more of that, then it won't be so odd to them. Like, oh, what are they doing? You know?
Right.
So you're right, and I can't wait till you start those back up again. I need to get back out there, and I like practicing yoga outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too. I like the like fresh air, hearing the different types of sounds around us, right? Like one time we did it in Oval Park, so we can hear like the kids playing in the playground,
Yes.
the families just like using the track. Um, and then one time we did it in Van Cortlandt Park, right? There it's a little bit quieter, we can hear the birds. And it was also like sunset time,
Yeah.
so yeah, being around greenery, it's always nice. So.
So you combine mindfulness and yoga.
So yoga is a mindfulness practice.
Oh, so yoga is a mindfulness practice. Okay, so I thought it was like, okay.
Hmm.
Mm,
But what I'm
so
saying is that
this
you
is,
can make anything a mindfulness practice. It doesn't have to be meditation and yoga. But those are the things that people usually think of when they think of mindfulness, yoga and meditation, right? Not anybody could sit for whatever 10, 15 minutes or even 5 minutes. Some people find that hard to meditate. So that's why it's like encouraging people to pick something, whatever you enjoy doing, and being intentional, and that is a mindfulness practice.
yeah, I tried to meditate a couple times. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get up and meditate. It should be easy. I'm gonna just sit there and, you know, listen to this YouTube video. And I don't know if I did that right. I think I was like, my mind was wandering, and then I'm
Hmm.
like, damn, this said 5 minutes. It hasn't been 5 minutes yet.
Yes, yes, it's hard.
As I'm sitting in that pose. But I did another uh I guess meditation, mindfulness, where yes, you when you mentioned earlier, I was sitting on a mat and just laying here, and the instructor was guiding me and telling me to do certain things, and I felt that my mind wasn't drifting. And
Mm.
then he was like, if it drifts, let it drift, and then it would come back, and I
Hmm.
was like, I like that a little better than the first couple ones I was doing, because I was like, I don't even know if I'm doing this right.
Yeah, yeah. But that's the thing. Like we put a lot of pressure, right, into like I need to sit and not think, and it's like, I don't know many people that can kind of that even that meditate for a long time that do that. Like thoughts are coming in, so it's like greeting the thoughts, recognizing it. Maybe there's a reason why those thoughts are coming in. So sometimes people like to journal after they meditate because like, why did that message come through right then and there? Um, and yeah, like maybe in like when I as you probably were able to practice with me, I try to incorporate different things like aromatherapy, so I bring essential oils. I try to do breath work, so if we're focusing on our breath. I've also have done tapping, using affirmations, and so it's like it's sort of because you're combining with something else, it kind of forces you to be like here right now. And of course, thoughts are gonna come in, but I don't think we feel as pressured, like, oh my God, I'm thinking about this when I should be doing this, right? Like as opposed to when we're sitting, we really are like, oh, I messed up, I didn't do this right, and it's like, no, it's okay, like just keep at it, and after a while we can do it a little bit longer.
Definitely felt like I messed up. I was like, there's no hope for me. I can't do this. Now, you mentioned breath work, and I have a new Garmin. Well, you can't see it really, but it's called Vivo Active 5 by Garmin. Got it, I think, in November.
Okay.
And on here, it has breath work. And I'm like, I haven't tried it yet because I'm not sure. Like, am I just supposed to, like, breathe? Is it just I don't know. So I haven't tried it yet. Maybe I will after we're done. But what is it just breathing? Is it just what is
Yeah, so but that's exactly what it is, just breathing. But there's different type of breath work. So I don't know. I'm finding it so interesting that your watch has that. It's like reminding us of how important like just being here is like right here. Um,
it? Yeah.
and focus is how important it is. And I guess other companies are starting to notice that. But so one of my favorites is box breathing. So you think about a box, right? And you inhale, and usually you pick a number. So like we can inhale for 4. Okay, so we're gonna inhale for 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you go back. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. That's box breathing. You could do 4, 7, 8, which is inhaling for 4, holding for 7, and exhaling for 8. And that the good thing about breath work is that it calms us down. So we're either in like relax mode or we're in like fight or fight, right? Like this in the world that we're living right now, we shouldn't have to be fighting for anything, right? Or running away from anything. But unfortunately, the fast-paced life that we live, a lot of times our nervous system thinks that we're being attacked. So most of the time we're not breathing in deeply. We're not using our lungs to full capacity, and we're not relaxing the way we need to in order to recover and in order to be healthy. So our body is always like going, 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 and that increases hormones that are usually in the defensive mode, which later down the line causes issues with like insomnia and different type of diseases because our body never has time to recover. So yeah, those are my two favorites. 4, 7, 8 box breathing. There's also just balancing out the breath, right? So can you breathe in and out at the same length? So you could also just pick a number. I'm gonna breathe in for 4 and exhale for 4. And just a lot of us inhale a little bit and exhale maybe a little bit more, like, but it's never equal. And that also our body starts to think that we're being attacked. So it's like, why aren't you breathing in fully and exhaling fully? Like, what's the rush? So yeah, it's a good practice for our nervous system to know that it can relax, that there's no issues going on around us.
At the end of last year, I interviewed Kevin Joseph. Um, he's also a yoga instructor, cyclist, um, and he did mention that about our bodies being in like fight or flight mode.
Hmm.
Um, I can this also help with like anxiety? You know how people say it, and we mentioned this on the last one, like, oh, breathe. You
Hmm.
know, so if I'm feeling anxious, should I just do some breath work?
Yes, definitely. And it's something, and one of the reasons why I love to teach it, I usually start my classes with breath work because it's something that you could do anywhere, right? Like nobody has to know that you're doing breath work. Like there's some breath work that is like kind of a lot, and you're like breathing, you're breathing out your nose, I mean out your mouth, and you're like exaggerating the breath. But you could do breath work with your normal breath. You're just being intentional about it and really be like, I'm gonna breathe in. Another one of my favorites are is 3-part breath. So you're really thinking about your I'm forgetting the name of our like pulmonary system, our respiratory system,
Respiratory system.
right? So we're thinking about our lungs, and we also put air in our belly too. So thinking about our belly, our lungs, and then our chest. So you're gonna inhale deeply, so you inflate your belly, and you even feel your rib cage expanding, and then sometimes your chest kind of comes up a little bit, right? And then when you exhale, you really thinking about that. Your chest is going down, your rib cage kind of collapsed, and your belly deflates. So it's really thinking about breathing slowly, intentionally.
Can breath work with like athletes? So we're cyclists. Um, I don't know. Does breath work when we're going up those hills?
So I think a lot of us when we're exercising practice breath work, we just probably don't notice it, right?
Yeah.
Um, like when you're climbing up, when you're on your bike and you're climbing up and you get off the saddle, like are you like at least for me, I don't get off the saddle, but I used to think about like, are you breathing? Like, and it's like sometimes you have to remind yourself, like, don't hold your breath. Like, I need to breathe. Or I need a little bit of, I need more breath in order to finish this. So let me breathe deeper. Um, so I'm a runner first, and then and now I don't know, am I a runner or a yogi first? I might be a yogi first, even though I love running more, I think. Now I'm thinking about 2012, I wasn't running yet. So I'm sorry, I got distracted about that. But with running, I do breath work. Like I'm always making sure that I'm inhaling deeply and I exhale from through my mouth when I run most of the time. So yeah, it's definitely a good way to make sure that you're getting enough oxygen um when you're doing something hard. Yes, it does help a lot when you're running to pay attention to your breath because a lot of times we hold our breath because we're tense. And it's just so easy to just be like, oh my God. And it's like, are you breathing? And sometimes it's like, oh, I'm not breathing enough. Yeah.
Telling me, you said breathe through my, inhale through my nose, exhale through my mouth.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
And I do that when I'm
So
cycling too. If I'm
yeah.
in a hard area, like climbing up, I make sure to breathe in through my mouth. And it's also a little bit of a distraction, right? Like, don't worry about the hill. Like worry about how you're breathing, how you're feeling, and making sure I'm breathing.
Sometimes I'm just forget all that. I'm in my head like, why did I say I was going to do this? Why did I agree to do this?
Hmm. So instead of focusing on that, like, oh, what did I do? Just focus on your breath. Enjoy the moment. I'm here.
Right. Right. Mindfulness, be present.
Right.
Right. Right. Yes. Feel the sweat about to drip in your eye.
Hmm.
Feel those bugs in your skin. Okay. Yes.
You
Gotta be
know,
mindful.
that just made me think of a so you know how we wear glasses when we're cycling, right?
Right.
And to be honest, I never really knew why. And I went on a hike one day. It wasn't even a really strenuous hike. It was like a path, but it was in the summer, so there were so many bugs, and I had my contacts in, and the bugs were just coming. Like bugs are the best friends for mindfulness, right? Because they force you to be present because they're all over you. They're like you can't be anywhere else but with the bugs. So if you want a mindfulness buddy, go out with the bugs in the wilderness.
Go for a hike.
Yes, for sure. And hiking too forces you to breathe, right? Because a lot of
Yes.
times when you're going out climbing,
Yeah.
yeah, and then you have nature. It's yeah, it
Hmm.
is definitely healing medicine to be out in nature and then doing some mindfulness.
And sometimes those hills sneak up on you. The incline sneak up on you. Like, oh, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
Ah, breathing a lot.
Hmm.
Breathe my nose.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I started hiking not too long ago, a couple years now, and I really enjoy it. Like I really try to be in the moment,
Hmm.
and then I catch myself like, oh, I wanna like take a picture of this, record that,
Hmm.
you know. Um, because I know for me, I get to do a lot of things other people don't get the chance to do. Maybe because they don't want to, or maybe, other commitments. But it's like, oh, I want to show you, like, look, yo, this is so cool. And
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes I feel that I'm not being present, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I want to take this picture, and I wanna go someplace and just have my phone in my pocket, maybe take a couple pictures in the beginning, at the end, but then enjoy the moment with being in nature, and just fully immersing myself in this moment
Mm-hmm.
right now that I'm in. And sometimes I don't think I'm doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and I, again, it's because I'm like, oh, taking pictures and social media, but it's like, damn. And then I'll feel bad, not feel bad, but I'm like, damn, I should have taken a picture of that, so I can look back on it, not only to post it, but look back on it like,
Mm-hmm.
oh.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I kind of fight between that, like, oh, I should be getting content and taking pictures. Actually, I should be really enjoying this
Right, right.
and being in the moment. So that's something I have to, kind of deal with.
But I think one thing that yoga has taught me is to think about balance, right? Like we can have both. We can feel sad and be happy. We can be on our phones all the time sometimes, and sometimes we don't want to do that. So like with experiencing life and in our generation of wanting to always record it, it's kind of like if I didn't take a picture of it, did it really happen? If I didn't share it on Instagram, right? Like did it really happen? So finding that balance, right? So like we're going on a 3 mile hike, like maybe at the end, the last mile, I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna be more intentional and not take pictures, not record. And even like there's a friend that I hike with, and I think we both enjoy hiking together because we spend a lot of time not talking, and it's okay. Um, so I think that's another thing. Like if you're hiking with multiple people, also being intentional of we want to be in the right now, so maybe we won't talk as much, right? So that could go hand in hand with being present and not doing videos and taking pictures, but enjoying. And I'm not sure if you ever been on my mindfulness walks, but that's one thing that I encourage is like paying attention to your surroundings, right? The trees, the birds, the sound, your footsteps. So when we're doing that, it kind of you kind of don't want to take your phone out because you're really trying to enjoy the right now.
Yeah, you don't want to ruin the moment. Like, oh, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me put my phone back in.
And I know we get the urge though, right? But we're like, no, no, this is not the right time.
Right. I'm really gonna practice mindfulness, and I'm I'm going away, going to LA for a couple months. So I'm gonna be practically by myself, so I gotta go a lot of places by myself, and I am going to really practice that, like being in the moment. If I go out to eat, don't take my phone out, don't take the book out, and just look around,
Hmm.
taste the food, smell the smells, like,
Yes,
wow.
yes.
And then, like you said, afterwards, journal.
Mhm.
Because I have started to journal. Um, but I think after an experience like that, one of your mindful walks, right? What I have to go on. All right, let me write what I was feeling,
Hmm.
you know,
Or what
and
came up? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Solo trips are great mindfulness experiences. I think there's so many opportunities at least, right? Because you could also go on a solo trip and decide to meet up with other people or be on your phone the whole time telling people about your day or what you're doing right now. Um, but I think it's a great opportunity not to do that as well. Or cut out time for it. Right.
it's hard. It's hard. And I'm not even going on social media. I'm just like, oh, let me go to YouTube.
Hmm.
Let me check my email. All right, let me go back to Instagram.
Right.
Let me. It's like, oh
Yeah.
gosh.
It's a cycle that we have of distracting because we can't. Some of us feel uncomfortable with just sitting with ourselves, sitting with our thoughts. Um, one of my favorite poses is savasana, which is the corpse pose at the end of yoga when you're just laying down. And that's one of the hardest poses for some people. Some people lay there for a minute, not even, and they get up. It's like, okay, class is over. And it's like, no, this is actually a pose where you're supposed to relax. You're supposed to be like, it's okay to just be still. And that is really hard for some people.
Like, yeah,
Class is
I know
done.
how to do this one. I know how to do this one well. Let me.
Okay, okay. Well, you'd be
So,
surprised. Just some people can't have dinner alone because your thoughts, what are you thinking about, right?
yeah.
And it's like, how about we just observe and not judge what those thoughts are? Or maybe just try to see what's the lesson. What is it trying to tell us?
Think I think why people can't do that, why most people don't like doing it, is because they're being judged and they can't. It's like, oh, that person's alone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this person's here. Um, and it's like one time again, I was out traveling by myself. I went to Olive Garden and I want something to eat, but I didn't want to go all the way back to my hotel, so I ate it there. And I sat at a table and ate the food. Um, for some reason this came up and I was telling my cousins, I was like, yeah, I ate by myself. I was there. And they were like, what are you at the bar? I was like, no, I sat at the table. They were like, what's wrong with you, weirdo? I'm like, it's like, why? Because I ate at a, like, because I was comfortable enough
Right,
to eat
right, right,
at a
right.
table. But they felt that since I was alone, I should have eaten at the bar or shouldn't have eaten there at
Go
all.
get a takeout.
I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, but I didn't want to. My food had been cold. I wanted to eat it there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some people said they can't do certain activities by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
like go to the movies. Um, they just can't do it because it's I guess it's I don't know. And I'm like, well, if there was nobody else with me,
Right.
I wanted to eat there. I'm gonna eat there.
Yeah. But that's part of like the self-awareness, right? Like how I could just be right here, right now, by myself. Um, the devices, the books, the
Yeah.
people, it's all of a distraction. Um, so yeah, I challenge people to sit alone, do things alone, sitting quiet.
So you started practicing yoga in 2012. Fast forward to was it 2022 or 2023 when you started, or when did you say, you know what, now I want to teach yoga?
So, as I mentioned, I used to do direct care, social services, and during the pandemic, I was still doing that type of work, and I was just like, if my clients, my patients had a self-care practice, self-love, something like yoga, I wonder if their life could be a little bit different. If they could live healthier, if they could let go of toxic relationships, um just be in a better place. So during the pandemic, I decided to get my 200-hour yoga teaching certification. And then I think it was like the fall of 2021 that I was just like, I just need to start teaching. Like I was in my head about it. So yeah, I just started to offer friends, and I'm grateful that people like you who are willing to come out and try it out. And yeah, and I think 22 and especially 22 to 23 were years where I was more collaborating with organizations and opening it up. to the community to come out and try it out for free.
That really is. Like you mentioned earlier, especially the Bronx, it's like, dang. And Jesse and I speak about this often, where it's just like sometimes the Bronx doesn't get anything. Like
I know.
we're kind of like left off of certain things, and it's just like we need those resources too, you know.
Right. So that's why when we do see things that are healthier for our community, that includes healthier options, that feed our soul, that makes us feel more loved and brings us together as a community, that's why we need to support it. So that way we can get more of it. And people, um, especially the ones that are paying for it, see that we value it so they can offer it to us more.
That's right. And then I did want to mention something earlier. You said about the studios. I think you said two in Riverdale. I think yoga studios, and if you know anything about the Bronx, you know anything about Riverdale. The people in Riverdale, it's it's a little different than people that live, you know, where we live.
Hmm.
So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm glad that there are two there, but it's like I think we need some in you know, in communities that are ours, like
Right.
Riverdale, they have a little, they're in a little different tax bracket than us.
Right. Right. Definitely.
It's a little different in Riverdale. Still the Bronx,
Hmm.
but it's just like, okay, but what about Webster Avenue? You know, what about Katona? Um, you know, different areas. So hopefully, with your work, working with these organizations, and collaborating with other yoga instructors, um, we could start to see those spaces pop up, whether it be like a pop-up shop or something, you know, pop-up yoga, or an actual yoga studio,
Hmm.
which can benefit um, the community. Because like I look at the businesses around and I'm just like, okay, food spot, okay, mechanic, like all these things that we need, but it's just like, damn, you know, and then we have to leave the community to find, or we think we have to leave the community to find these other yoga studios,
Yeah. Yeah.
dance studios, you know, certain things that's
Hmm.
just like, if I lived someplace else, I wouldn't have to.
Right. Right.
They would be offering it at our local recreational center, you know?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
so yeah.
you're pretty much speaking my goal. Like I hope that in the future I can collaborate with other yoga instructors and other um community organizations, and hopefully we can have our own studio, because out of those three that I mentioned, two of them are not really accessible to people that are outside of Riverdale, because like you probably have to drive there, or like, you know, not everybody's gonna take 2 to 3 buses to get somewhere. So yeah, like if there's something that's like off of the train, or more in an area where a lot of people walk by, like you said, Webster, Grand Concourse, right? Like can the West Bronx, South Bronx get a yoga studio? Like can we not have to go to Manhattan? I'm actually going to yoga tonight, and I'm like, it takes I think 2 buses for me to get there. So I'm like, should I just walk there? Because you know I'm not moving my car in Bronx. So um and then I can't bike there because where am I gonna leave my bike? So yeah, we definitely need to make healthy options more accessible to our community, and I think my job is to make yoga more accessible and let people know that they can practice mindfulness, whether it's through breathing or trying a few poses.
So you're gonna open up a yoga studio, and then inside the yoga studio, you're gonna have a place where you can park our bikes. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes,
Into existence. May the universe
yes,
hear us.
yes. Thank you. Yes. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, I can bike there, right? And then do some yoga. Bam. After that, bike home. Don't have to worry about find a parking spot
Right.
because, like you said, that's just stressful. I'm like, dang,
Hmm.
is there gonna be parking? Can I park around there?
Right.
Do I have to pay for parking? Like, I think
Right.
about all
Right.
that stuff. I think about all that stuff. Wow. Well, any final words before we wrap up?
Um, Yoga, mindfulness is a self-care, self-love practice, and I hope that people would try it out. Um, just self-love one breath at a time.
That, oh my gosh, I really am gonna try mindfulness. I really am. Um, and like be present, be in the moment, and like I am. I'm excited now.
I'm looking forward to hearing about your journey.
Yeah, I would just listen after I finish a meal. I'm like, Wendy, guess what? Mindfulness eating. Like,
Yes, yes. Thanks to people that came together to put it on your plate. The farmers, the
right.
cook, the
Oh my
chef, the waitress. That's a little mindfulness practice. Just being grateful.
right. That is yes. Oh my gosh. You right now. Oh, I'm about to practice this all over. I'm gonna be grateful for everything. I'm gonna just be smiling. People like, what's wrong with you?
There's always something to be grateful about. I woke up this morning, right?
But you know what? Like really being grateful. Like how many times I think we say, "Oh, thank you, Lord." Are you really grateful? Are we take a lot of things for granted?
Hmm.
Like, are you really grateful that you have, 10 fingers, 10 toes? Yeah, you're able to walk, you're able to breathe, you're able to just be here.
Right,
So, I'm really going to be I'm gonna just be smiling. I'm gonna be happy. I don't care. It's raining. I'm here. I'm alive.
right.
I'm outside.
Well, rain brings the flowers, right? It cleans the streets. Definitely. I agree. People that are more mindful are happier, healthier. And that's why I wish that everybody would have a little practice. And it doesn't have to be a 60-minute yoga class in a studio where it's costing $25, $30 a class. It could be just enjoying your meal and taking some deep breaths.
Thank you again for being a guest on my podcast. Um, Now this is uh, like I said, you're the second guest, and this is your first time on the video side. I told you I was like, I gotta add the
Stepping
video
it up,
to it, and
Tasia. Okay.
you know. But for real, thanks again, and yeah.
Thank
This is the
you.
Rolling with Tay podcast. I'm your host, Tasia, aka Tay, and thanks for listening and watching.